So, welcome back to Ask Beck and Liz, where no topic is off limits. We want to answer your questions about business, about life, and everything in between. In fact, you can have your questions answered simply by emailing us at ask@beckandliz. So that's ask@beckandliz, and send us whatever questions you have about any topic, and Liz and I will tackle it with vim and vigor. So Liz, it's interesting. The question we have today kind of dovetails with our conversations with Nancy Bigley of Painting with a Twist and our conversations about the imposter syndrome. And it has to do with, why is it not okay to make a mistake? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it plays into several conversations we've had today in terms of imposter syndrome. When you make a mistake, it plays into the idea that you're not as proficient as you would like to be, or you don't have the authority that you would like to have. But I think it's interesting too, one thing that I hadn't thought of that Nancy said was, I have to check my reaction. Are people that my franchisees afraid to make a mistake because of the way I react? I think from that perspective, the introspection is good. But I think from the perspective of being the mistake maker, we all want to present our best foot forward always. And people don't see that as a positive attribute, the ability to admit a mistake. When in fact, I think it's one of the greatest attributes you can have. You know?
I think it also depends to some degree what caused the mistake. If it's inexperience, then I'm going to encourage mistakes because that will give them experience, right? But if it's simply a lack of paying attention, you know, and or impatience, you make a decision too quick, or you jump in and you've not assessed the situation, or if the mistake has come from an emotional place, you did something simply because you're angry or you're judgmental or whatever. So I think it also depends where the mistake came from. I'm going to encourage, especially in my team, making mistakes, as long as those mistakes aren't coming from anger and judgmentalness and ego and pride and impatience and those kinds of things. And even then, I think I'm going to stop and say, can you see that boo-boo happened because, you know, you let your pride get in the way or your judgmentalness get in the way? And that would be a teaching moment. But nonetheless, mistakes is how we grow and learn and evolve and mature. So I think they're a blessing in disguise. And without mistakes, we become rigid. We know it all and we do it the same way all the time. So I think mistakes is a reflection of our willingness to grow and our willingness to take risks.
It really is. And I think, you know, in terms of what I do with the magazine, the mistakes that people who do things for me would be probably more in editing. The bigger mistakes that would impact me negatively would be missing deadlines or backing out at the last minute and not producing what you said you would as a writer, or an interview who backs out, leaves me with blank space. Those are impactful, and I would have to say, okay, how many times do you let that happen before you say this person's just not reliable? But in terms of writing or editing, if the ideas are great, then I can edit all day and I have a proofreader. It's not a big deal. So I think part of it is impact. How much is the impact is this kind of mistake going to have? Is it a mistake that can only be made once, or is it a mistake that can be honed into something better? You know,
right?
Those are the things. But you know, sometimes making a gargantuan mistake means maybe you're not in the right place. Maybe you're not a high-speed person who can meet deadlines and work quickly and under pressure. Maybe that's not your personality, and that's not a flaw. But you have to be able to say, this is not for me. You know.
What an interesting idea, that it's possible we make more mistakes when we are a misfit in a certain role And so it's not our natural inclination to do that. So I like that idea that sometimes it could just be a misfit of roles or situations. And sometimes it's a character flaw, meaning I'm undependable, I'm unreliable, I make promises I can't keep, I don't pay attention to detail, whatever it is, could be a character flaw. And those are very different. A character flaw we could work on, right? We can learn to become more reliable, more dependable, or more consistent. But if it's not a good fit, meaning I shouldn't be an editor, I shouldn't be a writer, I shouldn't be a teacher or lawyer, doctor, Indian chief, whatever, then we're naturally going to make more mistakes if we're a misfit.
Right. And I think you end up caring less about what you're doing when it's not what you're supposed to be doing. So when you find yourself, like today, I was doing a lot of editing and I was moving things into design, and it was kind of just going. But I love it. I love reading writers' things that come into me, and I see what their perspectives are and their ideas are and their way of expressing. That kind of thing exhilarates me. So if you find whatever it is you're supposed to be doing that excites you, exhilarates you, and energizes you, you're going to care enough about it that you're going to try as hard as you can to do it right.
Yeah, and that goes back to the growth and the risk. Similarly, I'm in software development. I know nothing about coding. I know nothing about software, but I have incredible passion for psychographics and assessment tools and human behavior and all of that thing, which forced me into the world of software development. And now I'm finding it incredibly fascinating and interesting. And have I made 1,000 mistakes, everything from hiring mistakes to design mistakes to algorithm? I mean, of course, but because there is that passion and purpose that we talk about,
right.
There's a willingness to mess up and a desire to get better. And Nancy addressed that too, this desire to get better simply because I'm having such joy and pleasure and purpose and passion behind it, I'm going to get better. But if I'm doing it simply to take home a paycheck, I likely am going to make more mistakes because I'm not a good fit and I'm not having fun and this isn't my purpose. And to your point, maybe it's time to find something different.
Yep. Absolutely. Wow. I think we have solved that problem.
Chop. Okay, bring on the mistakes, but only if they're passion driven and on purpose. And if you're making too many mistakes, consider maybe you're just in the wrong role. I love it.
That's all you gotta do.
That's right. So that actually wraps us up with the Ask Beck and Liz show. So we're going to sign off. Thank you guys for joining us today, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships are forged. This is Beck and Liz signing off and wishing you another purpose-filled and profitable week.